All right, welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by Chris Nunes, of course. If you haven't noticed, he'll be our exclusive driver this year for the MX-5. So you'll see him before and after every race. We'll have some more exclusive content with drivers to announce in the near future, though. How's it going, Chris?
Pretty good. How's it going, Casey?
Doing well. So, coming off a few weeks ago at Daytona, but how exciting is it to get the first race weekend under your belt there, bud?
It was pretty good. I'm glad we got to talk before the event. It actually was a pretty strong season opener for myself. This is my first season not being considered a rookie. So it went pretty good. We came home with a second and a fourth. Really can't complain. I know in the last podcast, we talked about how there's a lot of driving talent. It could really go any old way since luck is a big factor. So I consider myself to have came out very lucky from Daytona. And I hope everyone got to enjoy the last podcast. And now it's kind of a follow-up about how everything went. I think you guys will hear some pretty interesting content.
Yeah. So kind of talking about like where you are, overall, like talk about your race weekend, just go through race one, go through race two.
Yeah, so the race weekend went good. I'm on a fairly small team this year. It's just me and my teammate, Joey Antonaccio. It's relatively low budget. So we actually were one of the only teams there, besides a team called Sparky, that came with just a gooseneck trailer and some pop-ups. So we don't have a full semi-truck. So definitely when we first got to the track for practice day, all the media was looking like, wow, you kind of degressed from last year as far as setup-wise. But once we got through that first practice, we knew our cars were fast. Our cars were insane. The setups were awesome. Huge thanks to John Dean for that. The cars were awesome. Going into race one, I actually started qualifying a little far back. It was due to the poor weather. We didn't get too many laps. I started P9 both days. So not the strongest start. The first day race, this is where all the interesting stuff comes into play. It was a rain race. And I think for MX-5 Cup, we haven't had a rain race for maybe the past 2 whole seasons. So there's a lot of new drivers. We had 12 new drivers in the rookie field. So it was going to be very interesting. We had to go out on our rain tires, not slicks like our typical. So the diverse drivers with a very diverse racing background would excel. That's where I came into play. I have a lot of experience on off-road, motocross. I'm able to make reactions and to make the right call relatively quickly. And that really shines. It started pouring in the race in race one. So it was about a 7-6 car breakaway. And you could really see where the driving talent started to separate a little more, where the drivers that were good in those unique conditions really excelled. So I ended up riding around 5th place the whole race. I pushed up into the lead with 3 laps to go, fell back to 4th. And then at the line, we finished 2nd place by 6 thousandths of a second. So it was an insane finish, absolutely wild. So we definitely started off the race weekend right in the whole MX-5 Cup season with a lot of excitement. And then moving into race 2, once again, we started 9th. The weather was a little better. We were still on rains, but the track was a lot more dry. So we had a lot more overall grip. This kind of closed up the skill gap a little bit. Bigger car breakaway. We had about 10 car breakaway. Unfortunately, we did not get many green laps of racing. Lots of yellow flags. I think we maybe did 5 hot laps of racing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a super intense race to be able to spectate upon. But if there's any spectators out there listening right now, they're MX-5 Cup fans, and you want to watch an intense race day 1 at Daytona. You're going to get your fix in for excitement and adrenaline.
Yeah, that's basically everybody on Twitter, because everyone was talking about how insane this race was. So
yeah, that first day race was absolutely wild. I think it might be more intense than every race last year. So it's definitely something to check out.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something to come about. So you're gonna have a lot of off time between now and not really. You only have 3 more weeks until you get to come on again before you head on to St. Pete, and then you're going to have a really long off time. But you have a bit of a break for these next few weeks. Talk about what you're going to do.
So I'm actually leaving later this afternoon to driver coach. I'll be driver coaching the next 5 days in a row. So I really try to film my time schedule while I have some breaks with coaching, because not only do I get to help others in the industry that are trying to either follow my footsteps, better their driving, learn how to drive safer on the public roadways, but I also reinforce my knowledge on good habits and bad habits at the same time. And that's really valuable for myself. On top of that, I do have a training routine that I will be following. It takes place about 5 days a week, really includes a lot of cardio, pretty much explains why I'm so skinny.
Yeah.
But mentally, it helps me focus. And that's a big deal in these MX-5 Cup cars. So we'll be seeing a lot of that out of myself, a lot of driver coaching, a lot of fitness, and we'll be ready in a few weeks for St. Pete.
Yeah. Let's get to know you a little bit. We didn't really get to know you in the last, well, we kind of did.
Kinda, not really, not a whole bunch.
So let's get to know you outside the racetrack, outside of your training regimen and driver coaching, and kind of talk about you. Like, what are your interests? What are your hobbies and all that?
Yeah, totally. So I'm known as a California kid. Obviously, I'm from Southern California, even though I'll be moving to Georgia here in a few weeks. Got the California look, the long hair. I enjoy surfing a lot. I enjoy a lot of California sports, so a lot of water-based sports. So I wakeboard, wake surf in the normal ocean. I ride stand-up jet skis in the ocean. Another big hobby of mine is photography and videography. So I'm actually doing that. I go to college. I'm a full-time student still. We always have that backup plan to fall on in case racing doesn't work out, which, if you're listening, always have a backup plan for whatever you're doing in life.
Absolutely.
And currently, I just got into investing a little more with cryptos. I know that's kind of the way we're moving into in the future. So I'm kind of learning how to be able to trade those more accurately and make some profits.
Nice. So I don't know. Let's kind of more get to know you a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'll just ask some, getting to know you questions about that. You ready?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Favorite candy?
So, I actually don't like candy. I try to avoid sweets.
So yeah. Do you try to avoid like anything bad?
So no, because I'm so skinny, I try to get a lot of calories. But for me, sweets don't sit too well on my stomach, especially artificial sweets like that. So I guess if I did have to pick a favorite candy, I think I would probably say chocolate. Not too sure though. I like Reese's. Reese's are pretty good, but pretty basic. Pretty basic.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good. What is your favorite? Did you watch the LA Clash this weekend? I know you're from Southern California. I'm not sure if you were out there, been to the Coliseum ever for anything. But,
Nope. But I got to watch it on television, so that was pretty awesome to get to watch. That was really cool. I wish I got to go in person, and I'm actually getting ready to go driver coach up near LA where that Coliseum was. So that was an awesome event, and I wish I got to go and spectate in person.
would you ever try like other forms of motorsports? Like, I know, the IMSA route is kind of where you're going. Or I don't know, maybe MX-5 Cup racing and can grow into something, be like Graham or something like that.
So
IndyCar, NASCAR.
So I'm not sure if we got to talk about this in the last podcast, but as I kind of briefly touched on earlier, I have a very diverse background in the racing scene. I started off in motocross. I transitioned into off-road short course racing where I turned professional. And then from there, I transitioned over to sports cars where I am now in IMSA. It kind of sounds similar to you listening to Jimmy Johnson's footsteps. I've really followed Jimmy Johnson's footsteps, and in a lot of ways, I've been more successful. With that being said, I do plan on staying in IMSA, but wherever I can get an opportunity to get seat time, racing, help promote and grow other teams to expand out, I'm definitely open to racing any form of cars. I just like racing in general, as you can tell by the diverse background. So I wouldn't be opposed to going open wheel, circle track racing, or staying in IMSA and trying to move up to a GTD car or GT4. Totally all for me. I just like getting my butt in a seat.
Okay, traveling. Okay, I know you travel around. And last question, I know you travel all around the country a lot. Do you enjoy flying?
I do enjoy flying, actually. I used to have a fear of it probably about 2 years ago, but ever since I got the Mazda scholarship last season and I actually had to start flying, I got more used to it, and I was dating a girl at the time, and her dad actually was big into flying. He had a stunt plane, as a matter of fact,
Oh boy.
and he brought me up in the stunt plane, and he ended up doing his whole entire routine, and I absolutely fell in love with it. So I'm actually to the point now where I'm trying to kind of research getting my own pilot's license since I simply enjoy flying now. So that's actually a great question. I used to have a fear of it, got in the stunt plane, and with all my recent traveling, I actually really enjoy it. So it's pretty fun.
How do you keep yourself occupied like during the plane ride? Do you like watch movies, TV? Do you fall asleep
Typically,
or
typically I try to invest my time pretty wisely. Time is money, as we all know. So when I'm on the flights, I typically use my kicker headphones, which I'm using right now, to study for the up and coming event. So I'll go over the IMSA protocols for where pit in, pit out will be, pit speed limits, how the paddock will be laid out, things like that. And then, of course, I study my driving there from past years. If I haven't been there, such as VIR, I haven't got to race a cup car at VIR. John Dean, our team engineer, will actually send me notes of car setup, his in-car footage. So that way I'm able to study based on that. And typically the flights are about 4 hours. So that's how I fill up that 4 hour time span, is really just studying and making sure I'm the most prepared I can be for that event I'll be at.
all right. Well, Chris Nunes, thanks so much for coming on. Of course, we'll have you on in a few weeks to talk about St. Pete.
Yep, absolutely, Casey. Thank you. I'm excited to get on and talk about St. Pete. I actually scored my first podium there last year. So I'll have a lot of good insight going into our next podcast. So please make sure you tune in, listen, because it's going to be an awesome one.